Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, professional photographers of Idaho and beyond. I am Bob Ryder.
And I'm Larry Fry. Welcome to Friday, and happy Friday.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You said something astounding to me this morning. You said, how you doing? And you said, I'm doing very well.
Yeah.
In some kind of language like that.
Yeah. It's Friday, man. I'm not excited about the hot weather, but I'm excited about the weekend. Should be fairly relaxing weekend. I've had a lot to do the last couple of months, so I got some time off, just a downtime, and you've been busier than heck. So that's good.
I am. I'm so busy. I'm delighted about it.
Yeah. There's nothing to be.
My clients are coming back online. The job I had earlier in this week, we had some really good feedback from it from one of the people we photographed. We've added a new person to our crew, and her job is to just primp the person before they go on camera.
Primp's a good word.
It's perfect, right? We're not doing hair and makeup. These people come mostly ready. We do have a full-blown kind of touch-up kit.
But it's stray hairs and colors and all that kind of stuff.
And the comment I got back was, it was so nice to be lightly detailed before I got on camera. I'm like, yes. So we've got somebody doing that, and she's
talking about it like a car.
Yeah, well, that was the word she used. It was nice to be detailed, she put it in quotes. Before she went on camera, but it's just it's another level. We've always brought the touch-up kit with the brushes, and we've got mousse and hairspray and oil sheen and all kinds of great stuff. Anyway, it was just really good. And this is we've talked about this I think last week. This was a client I've been engaging with for about 4 years. Mm-hmm. And now finally we've got the account, and it feels really good. And anyway, it's been a good week. We've got studio sessions. I've got a studio session immediately following the live today.
Yep. That's
why our setup, you can't see this, but our setup in the room looks a little bit different.
I walked in and just about hit the white reflector, so it's all right.
That's because there's like a 5 foot reflector right there. Anyway. But I actually really am digging the.
I am too. I kind of like it.
This looks great. I don't ever use an umbrella in my studio, but
he did today.
I did today. Well, so today's guy is an executive from New York. I don't know why he's here in Idaho, but he missed the headshot sessions in New York and needs to be hooked up. So he's coming in today.
So you're hooking.
Yeah, we're hooking.
Good.
Right?
Nice.
And then I got a cool text message this morning. A buddy of mine, another copper from California, is actually here in town for a graduation in Eagle.
Nice.
And so I should be able to see my buddy Josh. And
maybe dinner tonight or whatever?
About something. Yeah, we'll see.
Nice.
He's here with family, so I'll be lucky if I can catch a coffee break with him, but it'll be nice to see him.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's Friday. We've got a cool conversation for you today. I didn't put this in the headline, okay, but I'm going to say it here because it's really where my head's
It's actually true.
It's totally true.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of announcements today, so we might just break our general rule and not wait until 11 after to start talking about our subject.
Well, I got one thing.
Lay it out.
Well, so you're going to have a busy day, and I'm on my way for a new prototype for my new little
and I was going to
gizmo.
say that, but I didn't know if you wanted to be like...
No, I want it out there because I think this is, as all of you guys know, or should by now, I'm all about fast and light, right? And throwing and going so that you don't have to like pack up the house or take wagons or whatever. And I'm working on a new business just to do just that. And then we've talked about how much is too much and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I've got a little deal in the works, and I'm pretty excited about it. I'm a little apprehensive about it.
I'm going to tell them a little bit, vaguely, about what you're prototyping an adapter to take a light that you love to put it into the modifier that you love.
Correct. And along with that, it may end up being that I do a line of modifiers with it.
Awesome.
So that's another.
So I have a couple of requests.
Yeah. You want to prototype it? Or you want to?
You're going to make stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a couple of requests of what needs to be in your lineup.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I need to be able to put that little 100 into a strip box without having to have a separate adapter.
You and I are thinking along the same line, brother.
So,
I'm telling you that a strip box. Listen, if you're making strip boxes and you're going light, make a 1 foot or maybe an 18-inch strip box at the most. Is like primo.
I would love to have like an 8-inch by 20-inch strip box.
20 inches is good too.
That would be just perfect for me. But I want it to fit my small super portable lights.
Yep.
We were at Mass Mutual today here at the Village, or Monday at the Village, and I traveled with, I had 4 8400s in my bag. I used one as a key light, one as a rim light with a strip box. But I used the little 100 on my backdrop because it's everything you need.
Yeah.
And it would be absolutely sufficient for a strip light too. But I don't want to do the whole S mount and the S bracket thing and clamp it in. That's all garbage.
That's what I'm trying to get away from, is that S bracket thing, like you was talking about. It's just another chunk of gear, and they're big. And then they take Bowens mounts, which are big. And so everything I'm doing is skinnying things up.
Nice little.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm good. I'm good. I'm
I'm going down.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited too. I mean, I go down to a manufacturer in Garden City, believe it or not.
Awesome.
And lay out my idea, and we'll take it from there. And this may or may not come to fruition, but you know what? You got to step out and do it.
You got to step out and do it. Bud, I have a couple ideas. If you find, I've got a couple of ideas that we should talk about going forward. Laquita says, "Cool, Larry." Laquita, I'm so glad you're here today. You're like our cheerleader, and I enjoy having you around.
You are like our cheerleader.
I would love to hear from others of you that are watching today, and I hope, a couple of things that I hope. I hope you're finding the quality is better here on YouTube. I'm ecstatic because we're pushing full 1080p here onto YouTube, and I just love what the new R cameras are doing for our video quality. And
it's all so much better now. The R cameras helped, but the ATEM really stepped up.
That's made a big deal for us, right?
Difference. So
we're not using all the adapters between the camera and
we don't have a million cables running around here anymore. This is actually
pretty lean.
So
we could actually do this.
The next roadshow will be. I still have to take my truck, but it'll all fit in the back seat maybe instead of the whole entire
pretty cool
bed.
I want to know from you folks how easy is it to find the feed and get on and join us and join the conversation. I'd love to hear from you while we're live, because it just would be great feedback. I put a lot of effort into moving us over to YouTube, and I scheduled us differently over on the Facebook side. I didn't actually schedule an event. I just talked about it, and I saw that you pushed that to our group page.
Yeah, I pushed it to the group page. I put it on my page, and I'd like to know how that, and I think this is what Bob's alluding to, but how cumbersome is that? Did you find it easy to get to us or not?
I think the only stumbling block is when you click the link from Facebook, you need to make sure you're signed into YouTube to get your reminders.
Yeah.
And but really, most of us stay signed in to our YouTubes and things like that. So
it's Google, right? So
so just make sure you're signed into your YouTube, and then you can get notification that we're going live, and then you can join in here and join the chat. We'd love to hear from you. There was a lot of activity on the posts, so I'm hoping that there's a good number of people that are going to join us today.
And we realize that all of you can't make it at 11 o'clock on a Friday.
Yeah.
So the replay, our numbers on the replay are really strong.
Very cool.
So thank you so much.
And you know what? I had a really funny thing happen last week. I was watching last week's episode on my big TV in the family room, and my son and his friend are 8-year-old dudes, come down the stairs, and I'm on the screen, and he tells his buddy, "Yeah, my dad's a YouTuber." I'm like, I hadn't really thought about that, but I guess we're doing that, right?
That's awesome.
Anyway, we've got a cool topic today. Are we ready to get at it?
Yeah, let's
get at it.
You're going to say this.
I am going to say this. So today's topic is false fears, stuff you've been told. But what I really wanted to say is false fears, garbage stuff you've been told. And I think that a lot of the talking heads that talk photography watch a bunch of videos and then make it the same video about that. So you've been told, I've got another one I want to add to here. Ready? Here's garbage, but it's not a fear, right? I just don't want to skip it.
He's writing in the Bob font.
I am the Bob font, right? I have to silence that phone call. Hopefully you're not a client. Call me back later. Sorry, phone ringing too.
So that, I was thinking about this topic just all week, actually. It's one of the ones that I like, but it's tough to kind of put this stuff into words, because listen, there's a million ways to get to the same endpoint, right? Yeah. And some of these guys, they're not necessarily wrong, but they're not necessarily right. Either. So you're talking about people that just go on and, oh, you got to do this and you got to do that and you have to have this and you have to have that.
Yep.
A lot of that's trash.
And it's trash because, and I'm gonna specifically speak to an illustration from this week that I had in one of the forums I participate in, which is really exciting.
It doesn't concern me, does it?
No, it doesn't. Okay. No, it concerns this one here.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I coined this 3 fears when we were down in Shelley.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm just going to lay the 3 fears out so that you can maybe write these down.
Has nothing to do with the Shelley crowd, by the way. This is actually kind of what we taught. This is kind of I would get not kind of a synopsis, but this is
a snapshot.
But this is snapshot. Yep. Well, this is what we taught: is don't be afraid. You can't just Laquita.
Love you, sister.
You had a flash, didn't know how to use it. And it makes you, and I've been there, so has Bob, everybody that starts in this has been there.
Yep.
It makes you timid or tepid. You don't want to do it because you're afraid of making a mistake, and you're trying to, stuff's racing through your brain. Oh, what'd that guy say? What'd that guy say?
It's supposed to work.
He's supposed to work, yeah, and it doesn't work. So anyway, that's what this is kind of leading up to.
Yeah, so the 3 fears, and I've added a couple since then, but the 3 fears are fear of hard light, fear of darkness and shadow, and fear of high ISO, and probably the high ISO is the one that I hear the most about. But I'll start with hard light here in just a minute. And then I've added fear of not having all the right gear.
Yeah.
You don't have to have it all. Now, I say that, and I'm a gear guy, and I have a lot of gear, and I've sold a lot of gear, and I still have a lot of gear. But
does other gear help you? Yes, it does.
Yeah,
sometimes.
It does.
Do you have to have it? No.
No.
And so one of the things that we constantly come up against as photographers are changing conditions, right? And an equipment failure, right? So if you're out there and you're doing something and best case scenario is if you're out on a bright sunny day, there's a cloud over the sun. Worst case scenario, that cloud moves away and now you're kind of messed up because you got to think about that kind of stuff. So do those extra powered lights help? Absolutely. Sure. But are they necessary? No.
So I'm literally, while I was kind of waiting for you to get here this morning, I'm talking to a guy named Jim Morton. He does church photography in another part of the country. He's phenomenal. His work is incredible. It's kind of like concert photography, but anyway. He's using the EOS R and an RP as his backup. And I'm in the R5 now, which is unreasonably amazing as a camera goes.
It's light years ahead.
But I picked up an EOS R as my backup, and this speaks to, like, you don't have to be using the cameras I'm using. I was talking to Gordon yesterday.
Right.
His main camera, his D750 from the Nikon family, is not working right. So he's sending that off, and he's busting out his D7000, an older crop sensor camera, but it's working for him. It keeps him in the game. Does that mean he has to get into a Z6 Mark II or Z5? It doesn't matter. So I guess what I'm saying with the not having all the right gear, if you've got a basic setup, you've got all the tools you need to start doing significant work. That's what I want to say.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move back. I'm going to come to this one later on. That's an offshoot and a tangent. And I want to hit this maybe before we get to the very end. But fear of hard light. So all the talking heads are, you have to modify your light. You have to use the softer the better. And I'm here to say hogwash.
Yeah.
Okay. Hard light is hard light. Soft light, if you get hard light when you're out in the sun, that's what people expect to see. Your brain expects to see hard light. So if you mix ultra soft light with hard light, there's something incongruent about that in the image. So I'm here to say, you know what? If that modifier is sapping your power on your light under the sun and you can't get enough oomph out of it,
take it off.
Ditch the modifier and work with some hard light. And you know what? This is kind of like wrinkles in muslin backdrop.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
You know what you're supposed to do with wrinkles in a muslin backdrop?
Yeah.
Embrace them.
Yeah.
All right? Muslin backdrops have wrinkles. That's just the way they are. So
just move your subject out and
right?
throw it out of focus.
You could do that, right? Or you can have, you could extra wrinkle it and embrace the wrinkles. I guess that's kind of where I'm going with the hard light thing. If hard light is what you need to produce what you need to produce, that I just talked in a circle. But if that's what you've got and that's what you need to do, use it. It's a tool.
I will tell you right now that some of the best photographers in the world use hard light.
Yeah, man.
And they use one light. So
as hard light.
As hard light.
Magnum reflector.
Not even that. They just I've witnessed this firsthand on a paying client, and this was high-end stuff.
I know who you're talking about.
Hold up. Now, we'll mention the name that should never probably be mentioned between us two, but the Profoto B1.
I love it.
I do too.
Great light.
They're great lights. Hold up a B1 above his head. Well, his assistant did. Poof. Done. And literally, those shots are gold. So it's a misnomer to say that you have to put everything in a softbox. You have to scatter the, get it all softened up.
Yeah.
Don't buy that.
Yep, don't buy that. So that's a false fear.
Yes.
You're afraid of hard light because you've been told to not use hard light. Right. Now, so that's that, right? I like that Gordon just chimed in here. He says, fear of embarrassing yourself. Well, I don't think that, Gordon, I don't think that's a false fear. I think a lot of people really have that fear. And that's okay. I think that if you are going, we've kind of talked about this before, I think.
Yep.
If you're going into a situation where you have to perform for a bunch of people,
yep,
you should be nervous, right? It keeps you sharp. If you're like, oh, heck, right?
It doesn't matter. I've been doing, I've been doing this for a long time. It doesn't matter. I still get nervous around a paying client because you're getting paid to perform. That's what you're getting paid to. You're getting paid to put out what they expect to see.
Which is why if you've got a second camera that's maybe not up to the caliber of your primary camera, but you have to have that second camera because you're on the spot. If your camera's like and freezes, ditch it. Grab the backup camera, make it work,
and have at it.
Shoot that crop sensor, shoot the high ISO, whatever that is.
And listen, now just to go along on that, there's tools out there right now that can overcome a lot of that stuff. Now, get it right in camera. I can't do it in post. We've heard it all, right?
Well, and I'm a believer in that.
And I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. But if you have a problem and you're out in the field and your mind's going a million miles an hour, and you're trying to look like you're going 1 mile an hour to a calm and cool customer.
Yep. You're panicked on the inside, calm and cool on the outside.
Then maybe those tools will help you. And I'm not saying to rely on them. What I'm saying is
they're a good fallback position.
Exactly. Now you can't make harsh light into soft light with a tool. I don't care. Well, you can, but it looks horrible.
Yeah, it does look bad.
So we're not talking about that. We're talking about if something goes wrong and you need to grab your, like in my case, it'd be my 7D, but that's 3 bodies down. But listen, if I have to grab that thing and go out and shoot with it, I'm relatively confident in that camera that it'll produce good images. Will they be as good as my 5D Mark III? No, absolutely not. Do I have some tools at my disposal that I can make them look almost as good as a 5D Mark III? Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, the client won't even know.
Right, I was going to say, we're our worst critics on that. Yeah. So Laquita asks, and this is back to the hard light part of the conversation. Laquita, you asked the best questions. Hard light, but not noon sun, correct? Oh, hogwash.
Yeah, noon sun. Listen.
You produce when the client needs you to produce.
So Kim Mintner just went over to, hi Kim.
Minter.
Just
got you saying Minter.
I know, went over to Montana to shoot a wedding. Guess what time it was? 2 p.m.
Yep.
In the bright sunshine.
You gets what you gets.
Yeah. So that's up to, that's perfect. That's a perfect example of the client going, I want these types of pictures. Oh, by the way, my wedding's at 3.
You're like, that's good, awesome. I can give you these types of pictures, and it'll be fantastic.
Exactly. Well, that goes back to client expectation, right?
Right.
So that's your pre-consult. That's
a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. So, but again, what we're talking about is hard light is not your enemy at all.
The
sun is not your enemy at all.
So a little sea creature, the anemone. Anyway, so that's exactly the point I'm trying to make with all of these. Is these things are not your enemy.
Right.
Okay. These things are simply what they are. So the next fear that we've got is the fear of darkness and shadow,
which ties, surprisingly, right into hard light.
It does tie into hard light, but it also ties into. So I've done a lot of real estate and architectural photography along the way, and I really enjoy it. It's very technical. Some of the worst pictures I see are where the photographer has pulled the shadows all the way up, and now they're just kind of a smudgy light gray. And your brain is thinking, that doesn't look right.
Right.
Because they've been told shadows are bad.
And
guess what? If you're shooting that property at 2 in the afternoon, you're going to have shadows.
Yeah.
And it defeats the brain's process to try and make it look other than what we know it should look like.
And we can go back to Laquita's comment about twilight. Same way, right? You're going to have shadows. If the sun's that low, there's going to be some shadows somewhere.
Yeah.
So there, and oh gosh, guys, I can't tell you how many times I hate forums sometimes, right? For the comments. Listen, people put stuff out there, and they don't even really want a comment. They're putting it out there because
they need to air it.
They need to air it.
Yep.
And Gordon said it best. You know, you put something out there sometimes just to, hey, I'd like to have some confirmation I'm on the right track. And instead, what the internet does is tear you apart.
Yeah,
right?
it shreds it.
Yeah.
So one of the forums that I participate in, and I talk about it a lot because we do a really good job. We all are doing a really good job talking to each other like human beings and discussing the concepts. And occasionally somebody makes a snide remark, and now I've learned to realize they're just kind of trying to be funny.
No,
it's not, but I get it. So, and you know what? And everybody else in the forum just leaves it alone. But anyway, I don't want to talk too much about forums. I want to come back to this. So I had a gal Monday. Now we're set up in a very specific way for this photo shoot with a bunch of people. When you're photographing a bunch of people, one after the other, you're not making a lot of changes. But there's one thing that I keep typically on wheels, and it's my reflector. Okay?
All right.
So this woman says to me, we're shooting tethered, and she's like, I hate how round my face feels. No problem. Back the reflector off and build some shadow on the side opposite the key light, and now you've just slimmed this person a ton by creating shadow.
It's one of the lighting properties, right?
It's a tool, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So darkness and shadow are nothing to be afraid of. If it's hard light in your shadow, it's hard light in your shadow. It can be very, very cool. That's what a beauty dish does.
Right.
Right? It's gonna underscore the high cheekbones, and it's gonna.
It's good light.
It's good light. It's a tool.
So there are some things you can do to mitigate some shadows, and specifically at night, or even when you're trying to really crank the ambient light down, is that whatever light source you're using is hitting the ground. And
bounce it.
Yeah. Well, grids are a good way to just keep. There's ways you can control that stuff, right? But you don't need to be afraid of it.
Right.
And there's ways to do that, and that's just up to you to learn those ways, right?
Right.
And there's, we're talking about talking heads, and I hate to say this, but there's talking heads out there, a million of them, that will tell you how to use a grid and how to not use a grid. And to be quite honest, you kind of have to go out and do it yourself. You
really do. So, there's some general guidelines with using those kinds of tools, and
that's perfect word. General guidelines.
So when we talk about play, and that I don't like, I love to craft with my light.
But you don't like to play.
Well, but that's my play. Is if I can craft with light and learn why the 32-inch octabox is different from the 46-inch octabox is different from my 60-inch octabox. Why this client's getting a big umbrella versus the way I normally shoot with an octabox, right? So,
but you do that to further your craft, right?
I do.
All right. So do I, and I just happen to do it with the freak show. She's a mess, but
we have to reintroduce every time you talk about the freak show with a different audience. We need to say the freak show is his studio mannequin.
Yeah, she's weird, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I learn a lot. Just like Bob does with his modifiers, I shoot different modifiers at the freak show all the time to see what they do, what happens to that light. You can learn a lot of this stuff if you book learn it, but it's much better for me
see it,
personally.
Touch it, feel it, do it.
Yeah, to set it up and fire it off and see what happens.
Yeah.
So.
Darkness and shadow are both tools to be embraced and used as necessary.
Yeah.
So I embraced shadow to thin my client the other day, and all it took was moving. I have this setup that all I have to do is move that modifier out 2-3 feet. Done. We get a nice shadow. And we're still filling it.
And what does that bring in? It brings in the inverse square law.
It really does, right?
Yeah.
Because that reflector's a light source. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next one.
Now this is a good.
This is my favorite one to hammer, and I just had an exchange with a gal on my Facebook forum. High ISO.
Yeah.
The conversations around nominal ISO or what's the phrase that I'm looking for? It's not original. It's the ISO.
Native
ISO.
Yeah.
I just left me there for a minute. I'm fine.
Right.
I'm back. More coffee. Hold on. Listen, ISO was a tool, and I've mentioned this before. I was shooting a concert at a beautiful winery venue, and I was shooting next to a peer of mine. His name is Bob, and he was shooting for the newspaper. And we're shooting. It's getting dark. I'm shooting, and I look at Bob, and he's packing his camera. I'm like, "How come you're done, man? The show's just getting going." He goes, "I'm out ISO." Huh? He goes, how are you still shooting? I'm like, I'm at like 24,600 ISO. He's like, isn't that grainy? Yes, it's grainy. It's 100% better picture than the one that you didn't take because your camera's in your camera bag. So listen, folks, and I'm going to just look right in the camera. I'm going to say this. ISO is a tool. It's part of your tool kit. Now, if I'm trying to make the finest art piece I can, maybe I'm concerned about ISO and keeping that down into a range where my noise is pretty well non-existent.
Contained. Yeah.
But listen, there are circumstances where ISO is the only way that you can make an image that makes sense. So here's a great one. You're shooting basketball indoors in a gymnasium.
In high school, even better.
Okay? In a government-run institution where half the lights don't work, half the lights work poorly. Okay? So ISO may be the only way, bumping that up, that you can get a fast enough shutter speed that you don't get that blurry hand.
For those of you that are out there taking pictures of volleyball and basketball indoors at the high school, you know exactly what he's talking about right here.
So you're trying to freeze that motion, but those hands move fast.
And I don't care how fast your lens is. Most of you go out there with a 7200 f2.8. Okay, that's pretty standard. I'm telling you right now, in a high school gymnasium with like 3 light bulbs on, and Bob's right, they haven't relamped in 20 years. And by the way, they're sodium vapor lights. They're just marvelous. These are perfect.
The color
things.
sucks, right?
Yeah. So, exactly, high ISO, and you're still shooting away. I want to do one more example, and I think you've heard this story before, but
great, go for it.
When you're down in Arizona and Horseshoe Bend, outside of Page, there's 1 million people there now. It's not a secret anymore. There's a big ass park. Can I say that?
We did. You just did.
There's a big, huge parking lot, and buses roll up and stuff like that. And then I was down there. This is before that, but I was down there with a friend of mine, and there were still a lot of tourists there. There must have been 200 or 300 people, and I just sat there on the rocks and watched the people because that. First of all, I love to people watch because that's fun, and I like to watch them take their pictures because that's even funner.
Funner?
Yeah,
more funner.
And my buddy says, "Are you gonna take a picture of this?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to." And I just sat there. Now it's late afternoon. Pretty soon the sun starts going down, and oh my God, the shutters were going off. I mean, the sun was going down. Oh man!
Right.
And as soon as that sun went below the horizon.
Everybody packed up left.
Tripods were clicking shut, and bags were zip, 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 and everybody's gone. We had the entire place almost to ourselves. I dug out my gear and started taking pictures. And, all you guys know about the blue hour and all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, but how could I do that? ISO. That's, now
right.
I'm on a tripod, and
but stuff's changing.
Exactly. Shutter speed isn't really a concern, but I wanted to get as many frames in as I could before things go to pot. So anyway, ISO is your friend, and again, we go back to the tools that are available today. You can take now. Do you lose clarity and some sharpness in your pictures when you use an ISO tool?
Maybe is the phrase I'm going to use there.
Yeah, but there are tools to help you with that. So in today's world, as of today, there are things that can help you if you have to jack your ISO up to 112,000. Yep. Now I wouldn't want to do that, but
what did you say? 12,000?
112,000.
112,000. Okay, yeah. I've never gone that far. I've gone to 30,000.
I've gone up to 64.
Okay.
So
I haven't tried the new ISO on the R5. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to lay this illustration, and this is another. This is the conversation I said I want to talk about. So a photographer in my real estate forum photographed an absolutely miserable property this week, and he had some cell phone pictures of it. Like, what do you do when you get there and the property is soiled clothing and animal feces and just a horrible place to be?
Call Sky Facet.
You know what? No, it does. So there's that's a good point. Sky does absolutely beautiful.
She does.
Artwork image of her real estate.
Yep.
And my comment to this was, that is a run and gun, handheld camera, 3-shot bracket, one wide shot of every room, a shot of the backyard, a shot of the front elevation, and done. You're not making art.
Yeah.
You're making a listing for MLS, and doing a technically beautiful job on this property isn't going to help the property look any better.
Correct.
So a gal asked me in response to that, she goes, well, what ISO do you use to do the run and gun handheld thing? I'm like, whatever it takes to make the picture.
What time was it?
Because I'm not trying to make art. It doesn't matter. You're inside in this dark house. I'm going to crank my ISO up. I'm going to run a 3-shot bracket. I'm going to go brut, brut, brut. I'm out of that house in 10 to 15 minutes because it's disgusting. I don't want to be there.
Right.
I know my technical ability of my equipment, and I know that. So this is you talked about the fix it and post thing.
Right.
Listen, I'm going to do an HDR merge on those. I'm going to do my horizontals and vertical correction. It's a push button in Lightroom for most of the time. Sometimes it's like, but most of the time it works really well. I'm going to bring those in. I'm going to deliver 15 to 20 images to my client, and they're going to be grateful, A, they didn't have to go out there, and B, that they've got good photos.
If your real estate agent hasn't seen the property yet, and that's possible, you just say, look, this is it.
I was fortunate. I worked for a gal. I photographed everything for her. It wasn't a question. She didn't have time. She was busy selling homes. She didn't have time to go to the mobile homes or to go to the winery estates. I photographed everything for her. She would send me the listing, send me the address. I would go shoot it. I'd invoice her, deliver the pictures, and move on. She'd pay the invoice. It was just like that. And then, but some of those homes, you go in and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Right? It's a 3-shot bracket, handheld, whatever ISO I need to make those images, and I move on. I'm going to denoise that a little bit in Lightroom. It's a pretty simple process to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take them into Photoshop. I'm not trying to create art. These are going to be looked at typically either on a crappy monitor
or a newsprint. Or a magazine.
This home's never going to go in a magazine.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've had magazine cover homes.
I don't mean like a cover. I mean like maybe in a little itty bitty thumbnail.
Right. So that would literally be it, and it's just going to be the front of the house. It's not going to be your interior image, right? And the outside of the house didn't have to have high ISO. Whatever. My point is the ISO is just a tool in your toolbox that you can lean on to make an image when others might not. And if you need to fix it in post, you fix it in post and you move on.
So and last but not least, how do you take pictures of the Milky Way? Night stars, whatever. High ISO, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have a choice, right? You're trying to collect light from a star that is quite a ways away.
So you're going to bump it, right? You got to make your camera more sensitive.
Yep.
All right. So then we talked about fear of not having all the right gear. I think I hit on Gordon's fear of embarrassment. And Gordon, I don't think that's a false fear. I think that's very, very real.
Gordon, it's real for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. And if somebody says, oh, you know, I'm not worried about this, I got it nailed. Yeah, okay. Watch. And they might.
I know I can go into a business and run a headshot event and talk to a dozen or dozens or 100 people. I know I can do all that, but I'm you know what? I have a checklist. Mm-hmm. I'm rehearsing. I'm talking it through with my staff, and we're doing everything we can to minimize those opportunities for embarrassment.
And by the way, so again, we'll go hit Laquita again because it's this kind of.
And she's here.
She's here. So you know, Laquita. I don't know how many months ago we met Laquita. Quite a while.
Yeah, a year ago now.
And she says, you know, my stuff's not very good. And then she posted.
Yeah. Right.
So. We are our own worst enemies, Gordon and Laquita, and it's true. I can take a cell phone picture. Oh God, that's great. You know, it's a cell phone picture. I'm looking at it going, oh yeah, but geez, look at this. Look
but
at
I took it with a cell phone, right?
Exactly.
It's still a pretty good picture.
And not even that. It's still a pretty good picture. I mean, my sisters think it's fantastic, and I'm like, oh, that's a cell phone picture, and they're like, no, this is great. I got to whatever. So we are our own worst critics.
Yeah, and you know what doesn't help that? Pixel peeping.
Yeah.
You know, and I suppose we could make another episode out of pixel peeping, but that's when you zoom in to like 200%
or
and look
300,
and look at the pores in somebody's skin. You're like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
You know, I have a phrase that I use when I do that. I'll be upstairs in the office and I'm editing, and I zoom into that 100% to get a thing that I just see. I'm like, get out of there, get out of there. I'll say that out loud. My wife's like, in too close, are you? She knows.
Yeah.
We could talk about the whole editing thing another time, I think. But so let's come back to the embarrassment thing, because the way I mitigate my fear of embarrassment or that performance anxiety or that fear that something's going to go wrong is I'm organized. Mm-hmm. I checklist my packing. All of my lenses have the focal length on it. So everything is right in its place. And when I've done that, I know I've done everything I can do to bypass the potential for things going wrong. And you know what? Okay, crash, I knocked the light over, I have a spare light. And I'll deal with mourning the light later, you know.
And everybody that's good at something doesn't do that thing just once. It's practice, practice, practice.
That's it.
So if you just go out and practice, I don't care if you're shooting squirrels in the park or
I would equate this to any of the best musicians that I know. I've got friends that
golfers,
have been lifelong musicians, and they play constantly.
Yeah.
They are constantly practicing and constantly honing their craft. And that's part of my dealing with that fear of embarrassment or anything like that. So anyway, that's what we got there. Laquita says, I do that all the time. I want to take, I think we done with the fears?
Yeah, I think we're
all right, so I'm going to hit those again. Fear of hard light, fear of darkness and shadow, fear of high ISO, and fear of not having all the right gear. That's garbage, all right?
Yeah.
Most of those things are tools in your toolbox, and the gear you've got is sufficient to make the images that you want to make, all right? I've said that.
Yep.
That's about as direct as I can get with that.
And that's, I second that motion. So,
okay,
yeah.
Good stuff. So I want to take a minute and talk about this. I'm going to rearrange a couple of things up here.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take that off for just a minute. I'm going to come over and I'm going to turn this on.
Something else fancy.
That's not what I meant to turn on. Sorry about that.
That's the show you just listened to?
That's what we're just doing there. Okay, I'm going to put this up. I have to remember how to get that there. I don't remember. Give me just a minute. Oh, I didn't mean to turn that on. That's okay. You keep talking for a minute while I play. Oh. You know what? I need this guy and this guy, I think. Is that going to show? It's showing over there. That's not showing where I want to.
Well, it is kind of, but wrong screen.
Let's do this guy. Sorry for this. I am trying to get this down.
There we go.
Well,
that's
green. Not good now. All right, so we need to key that. So we're going to chroma key on one, And we're going to turn that on. There we are. Got it. Why was that hard?
I don't know.
Whew. Okay. Well, we don't really want to be previewing that, but that's okay.
That's all right.
This is PPI's mission statement. It's born of 2 days of leadership training and conferencing with your board of directors, and a firm belief that we are a community that exists to lift the photographic industry and lift photographers, right? And how do we do that?
Probably the single biggest statement, not the most important thing we did, but probably the biggest single statement that came out. And we do that by building a community through people, education, and leadership. Building a strong community.
Strong community through people, education, leadership. And notice that people are first in there, because it is the people around us that lift us. And we talked last week about hanging with lions, right? There are some absolute lions here with us.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. Good stuff. All right, let's see. If I hit hide, I bet that's going to go bye-bye. Nice. That was smooth. See,
that's what
we can bring it back. There it is. And take it away. All right. Thanks for bearing with me on that. I do have another thing I'd like to share here. Let's see. This is fun. Bob's learning some stuff, right? And then this one here. Remember, I wanted to put the word garbage into this headline, but I refrained because I thought that was maybe a little too harsh for the universe. Anyway, the last thing that I want to talk about, I'm going to come over here to image, and I'm going to bring this up. All right. This is ppofidaho.com. You can become a PP of Idaho member, a Professional Photographers of Idaho member, by going to our website, using the Join Us tab. How much is it, Larry? It
is $9.99 a month, or $99 a year. And that is a bargain. So we are the PPA affiliate for the state.
We are. I've got that too.
I could see that over there, but I was kind of hoping you'd throw that up there. But
it's up.
Yeah. So we are the Professional Photographers of America affiliate for the state of Idaho. Professional Photographers of Idaho. We'd love to have you join us. There are some things you can do that you don't have to do on the national level. You can get your Idaho Fellow, and then we're going to have some type of fun here coming up.
Some summer fun.
Some summer fun. So, listen, to me, it's a no-brainer. You hang out with like-minded people. We're building a community of people that can talk to each other and not feel weird about, just like we're addressing Gordon and Laquita on this broadcast, because we know that they're watching. So it's kind of fun to chat with them on air today. And we're not in the business of embarrassing or making fun of anybody. As a matter of fact, we're in the business of making everybody better. So
edifying.
That's the plan. So
I'm going to throw this out there, okay? And we've talked about competition. We've talked about my 1% theory. I have received 2 absolutely brilliant jobs that were referrals from other Boise area photographers. Okay, one was the GSK Hamilton pharmaceutical plant that we did up in Hamilton, Montana a couple months ago. That was a referral from Lisa Payne. She's a headshot photographer in Boise. You can look her up, Boise Headshots is what she goes by, I think. And then just recently, Jen Satterwhite, and I don't know if she's a member of PPI right now, but she's in the chamber that I'm involved in, and she's a photographer out of Boise also. And she just passed me a neat opportunity within our school district, and I'm pretty excited about that too. Listen, we exist to bring each other work when it fits what the other does better than it fits ourselves. So I just met with Leslie Rodriguez this week over lunch. She's a food photographer.
Sometimes we refer work when we do that work, but we can't do it because you're booked.
I'm too busy. I can't travel. Whatever that looks like, right?
Yep.
I was tagged in a post on a business forum for some large-scale family photography outdoors. I don't do that. Leslie Rodriguez and Mark Rozansoff had both been tagged in that same post. So I chimed in and I said, hey, thanks for tagging me. Mark and Leslie are both very capable of doing that work.
Right.
And I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm going to talk about this. If you're here today, you know that we're here on YouTube. Join us weekly for our live stream. We're going to be adding PPI events that we do. They're going to come into our YouTube page as well. And some of our photography education content is going to be joining us here as well. And Larry, my friend, I think we are done for the day.
Just wanted to say one more thing real quick.
We
are working hard to kind of catch up our outreach and our membership drive. We need to have a membership. Well, we have one started, but we're trying really hard with website presence, YouTube, Instagram.
We're also trying to get to 100 members.
Also trying to get 100 members. So we're catching up. We will get there, hopefully sooner rather than later. And
we have a phrase in our house: "We'll get there when we get there."
That's right.
But know that we are trying to get there,
That's
right?
right.
A website. What can you talk about with that?
You know, we're going to have a new website. So currently, without getting too technical, currently our website is hosted by our CRM tool people.
The people that
take
manage our membership.
Right. And it's cumbersome at best. It's hard coded. There's no real easy way to take care of it.
So there's a new website under development.
Correct. And it will hopefully be seamless to you guys. We're going to
funner.
But it will actually have media.
It'll be funner.
Funner. It'll be funnest. So yeah.
Right on.
We're looking forward to that. We all have jobs. We're all volunteers. So don't expect it tomorrow. Is not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But we're working hard to make this stuff all happen. Your board is.
So let's hit this real quick, and I don't have a slide for it, but listen, if you're a PPI member and you're looking to get involved and grab some ownership in this organization, we have volunteer opportunities for you. It could be creating content for our Instagram and Facebook, our social media presence. It could be, there's a lot of things that are happening behind the scene that it would be great to have
we just
to part out.
Right, and we need volunteers, and that's throughout the state. That's not just here in Boise.
Right.
So if you're in McCall, Grangeville, Coeur d'Alene, Lewiston, any of those over east, Twin Falls, Burley, Pocatello, Idaho Falls.
Are we going north next month?
I'd love to go north.
Let's go north next month.
I got this is June, right?
We're mid-June right now.
Yeah. We'll have to. Actually, July's a pretty good month. So let's check that out.
All right.
Yeah.
So, PPI Roadshow coming up maybe in July, right? Going north. All right. Folks, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, man.
Oh, that's fun.
You bring so much to this. I'm glad to have you here.
Oh, I just hang out, man.
See you later.
Right.
See you next week.
Have a good day.